Bob Huggins has made a point of how good his team can shoot the basketball.
It's a Hugs team. They're going to rebound.
The energy is so much more exciting, especially like up in Coliseum.
West Virginia fans are used to seeing their players get rebounds.
Rebounds, assists, steals, and blocks.
There's just something about the basketball, man.
And now it's time for the Country Roads Webcast. What's going on, Mountaineer Nation? Welcome to another edition of the Country Roads Webcast Hoops Edition. Today, I am joined by, as always, Bradley Brown. How you doing?
I'm doing.
And I, of course, am Stephen Vestal. Without Ryder today, I think, schedule conflicts have gotten in the way, and it's mostly my fault, so I do apologize. But
yeah, basketball, it's definitely going to be harder to get all three of us on here, but, we'll make it work.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of episodes dropping for this basketball podcast. I'm really excited to finally get this off the ground and moving for this. I think we've been doing football for a few years now. We've been talking about getting basketball in the loop, and we've all been wanting to do it. So it's just finally nice to see that actually become a reality for us.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. But we'll be starting off today talking about West Virginia's win over the Oakland, I guess, Bears. Is that what they are? Are they the Bears?
Yeah, I think that they were the Bears.
Okay, so the Oakland Bears, that's what we're going to go with. We're going to start off with that, and then we're going to finish up talking about the Pitt game coming up tomorrow night at the Coliseum. I don't really think there's a lot to talk about with this Oakland game. West Virginia did have their fair share of struggles in this matchup, and I think one of the glaring struggles was their inability to get rebounds. I think
that rebounding was horrendous. I think Ryder jinxed us a little bit when he said, Bob Huggins' team's going to know how to rebound. Man, we came out and did not know how to rebound. We were just...
Yeah, well, Huggins has never really been one to mince words when it's come to being honest about his basketball team, and he told you plenty of times in those preseason pressers that he had that this team couldn't rebound anywhere near as well as what the team last year or any of the teams previous to that, could do. And I think, that's been one of West Virginia's strong suits with Bob Huggins at the helm pretty much consistently since he's been here is their offensive rebound especially.
Yeah, and I think a big part of it was going back to what we talked about a little bit last week. What came to my mind is just like that physicality. Like we have a lot of guys down low right now that haven't played that big man ball in the Big 12 and some of these tougher competition. Even though Oakland's not Big 12, but right. They're not used to being the big man. Down in there, they're used to being big man, but they're not used to knowing that they can like assert their dominance in there. And then so they got to really get comfortable in that position. And I think that. If anything from this game, I just thought that it was kind of like what we talked about, where they just don't seem to have like the exact chemistry yet. I definitely saw like we were getting good shots up and stuff like that, but we just didn't seem to be in rhythm necessarily with everything as smoothly as what we could be once we play together a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that was one of the things that I noticed too is as well as they shot in that Akron game, they didn't shoot anywhere near as well in this game. I think, if anything, they were forcing shots at a lot of times, but one thing that I did want to point out was how well, I think it's, pretty well known how much those 5 charges that Gabe Osabuoyen took, taking 5 charges is a lot for anybody to take in one game.
For sure.
But you match that with, what I think is a very much improved side of his offensive game. And I think, I don't think that Bob Huggins is being anywhere near over-exaggerating when he says that the offense, or the team rather, needs to run through Taz and Gabe this year, because I think those two, without a doubt, were the two that really played really well, on Tuesday night. And I think that they both played like leaders and like people in their position really should play. And when the team gets down or in a position of a tough basketball game, they're the two that needs to step up, and I think Gabe Osabuoyen really did a good job of that. 5 charges. I don't think I've ever heard of anyone taking that many in a basketball game.
That's 5. That's 5 steals. Right there. Like that's 5 takeaways.
Yeah,
that's huge.
And especially in today's game, I feel like you don't really get charge calls a lot. You know what I mean?
Yeah, a lot of people don't step in there and take that hit anymore. And Gabe does a good job of getting there. And refs know to look for it now too.
Yeah, it's tough to get a charge call nowadays too, because they're all, it's a lot of calls go against the defense rather than the offense, more so often than not.
Yeah, but I think you talked about that last week when you were pointing out your leader, and it definitely seemed to be, Gabe Osabuoyen. Our team came out flat down 7-3, and we throw Gabe in there, and not only does he put it on defense, but he was 2 of his first 3 there. I don't know what he ended up at the end of the game. stats wise. But I mean, he was some of our first baskets in the game right there beside Taz, and so
Yeah.
He's definitely going to be the rock that we lean on because I think that's kind of like where we're hitting that stalemate, that not full chemistry and swing of things is where we don't have that Deuce McBride, that Derek Culver. Those guys came into last season knowing that they were going to have to, put the weight of the team on their shoulders, and they were expected to rise to that occasion. And I think that's something that's very basketball specific, to be honest. I mean, there's just a different mentality when it comes to basketball that people have got to have, and so I think that that's just going to be something that our team's going to have to work on going forward. Is like getting comfortable being the man. People got to have that next instinct to be the team leaders, and they're just not there yet because it's the first year that we've really had the floor is open for it. I mean, it really could. We all expect Taz to come out and drop 18, 20 points a game, but there's also a possibility for anybody to come in and do that on our team. And if anybody finds their comfortability, and once our team really starts to set in, I think that anybody on our team has the capabilities of really putting up points and being impressive. So
yeah. That's absolutely
some of our unknown guys, they looked really good. Kerrigan looked really nice.
Kerrigan looked really good, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I was about to point
Curry looked pretty good. Kobe Johnson, I thought he came out and played really well.
Polycap, I thought he played really well. He didn't really do
I thought everybody played
on the score sheet, but he really did play well, in my opinion, when he did get minutes.
Yeah, and once Sean McNeil, gets comfortable, that's one thing. He's just got to be hotter, faster, and that's what I talked about last week. Is just Sean McNeil's going to need that consistency, and I just, sometimes he can come out flat, but it seems to be when he goes on the bench for a couple minutes and then comes off the bench, it kind of syncs up for him. So
I pointed that out in the last show. I think that Sean McNeil tries to do a lot of things that's not in his skill set. I think that he tries to do too much, and I've always been one to say that you only do what you're good at, and that's what makes good basketball teams great. Is when people on those basketball teams do only what they're good at and don't try to get outside of what that skill set is. And Sean McNeil is a better catch and shoot shooter. I don't want to be catch and shoot shooter. But he tries to get into those little, size up moves and things like that. It doesn't really seem to fit his game that well, and he starts to not knock down the shots as consistently as he usually does when he starts to do that. But
I think that's something that he's capable of hitting. I think that he just needs to get more comfortable first, and I think those are shots he can make once he's hot. I think those are definitely things that he can hit once he sees the basketball going through the hoop, but it's not something that he needs to start out trying to do.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just got to get more comfortable with his game, and his team just needs to get more comfortable with themselves and gel a little bit. But,
and like what you were talking about, like that's a Bob Huggins quote. When he was talking about, I think about the Final Four team with Deshaun Butler and them, he said, what made that? I think it was that team. Might have been another team. Like I said, he said, what made them so good is that they all did what they were good at, and they did it really well. And I feel like that's really what this team exemplifies. We got people that do Taz really great driving, really great shooting. We got some guys that are really good at what they do. They've just got to do it. And so it's that. I think that's why we all have such good expectations for this team, high expectations for this team, not blowing the roof off the building, but the fact that we've got the possibility to cover everything we need to cover and do it well.
Right. And I still think that this team has a lot of growing room that they need to go through. And, a lot of this team is still young, although, you do have some seniority.
A lot of this team is unknown.
Right. A lot of this team, right. They're not
unlocks characters.
That's a better way to put it. They're not so young as they are, new to WVU and the way that they play and everything. So, we got a lot of people from the transfer portal, because you lose a lot of people to the transfer portal. And so, I think once we get a few games into this season, we're really going to start to see what this team's really capable of. I don't know that they're going to be as good of a team last year. I don't really know that it would be fair to compare this team to what last year's team was, just because they're so different. But I do think that they're going to become a pretty good basketball team throughout the season if they keep playing the way that they can play, because I think towards the end of this basketball game, as inconsistent as they were shooting the ball in the first half, I think towards the end of the basketball game they started to do a lot more on the defensive side than what you seen earlier in the game, and a little bit more on the offensive side too. When you seen Taz start to knock down some shots, he didn't really start to throw up those threes that he was throwing up earlier on in the game, because Taz went 1 for 7 from the 3-point line. I think if you're going to be successful from shooting the ball, you're going to have to start to make those shots. And some of the shots that Taz missed, as well as he did shoot the ball, he missed some pretty some pretty open ones in my opinion. But Oakland didn't do a bad job playing defense. I will say that.
Yeah, Oakland played some pretty good ball. We also played a little sloppy, but I mean that's West Virginia
Yeah.
basketball. So
I also would like to point out, speaking of Akron, Akron did take Ohio State down to the final buzzer. Ohio State winning that one only on a final layup there, 67-66.
yeah, for sure.
That was pretty impressive on their part. But there's really not much else to say, I guess, about this Oakland game. It's Oakland. The Grizzlies, by the way, they're not the Bears. They're the Golden, the Golden Grizzlies.
Yeah, but I think it was a good game for our team to start out on. Like I said, like we've said, this team's going to be all about how well they end up cementing throughout the year. So we start looking towards January and February. How we're playing then is really going to tell us how good our team is.
Oh, absolutely. These first couple games are always, if not most of the time, these growing pain games. You're going to not see the most fluent basketball that you're ever going to see in your life. It's going to be a little bit of sloppy play, not so great passes, especially if you're watching WVU, because it just seems like West Virginia never knows how to pass the ball.
Yeah. Well, that being said, like I said, I felt like they played it like fairly decently as a team, and I felt like some of the things that were going wrong with us are things that can be corrected with confidence and just realizing that you're playing the ball you should be playing, like you're doing fine. You know what I mean? And you just got to believe in yourself in that. You got to believe in your team in that. And I think that if our team can get behind that message, then I think we'll be okay.
Absolutely. I think that from the way that Coach Hug speaks, he really thinks that this team has bought in. A lot of them, he's really talked about how most of them have really bought into the West Virginia culture, and they love them, themselves as a team.
Yeah,
because I think one of the questions in the pregame or the preseason, I don't want to. It's not an exact quote, but I think something along the lines of, what do you think that some of the guys' reactions will be to, giving others playing time if they're having a bad game or so, something along those lines. And he was like, if they have a problem with it, which I don't think they will because they all love each other so much because they just want to see each other succeed. He said if they have a problem with it, then that's something I take care of, and they probably won't put on a uniform again. Or say it was something along those lines. I don't know.
I just don't see them being a very selfish basketball team, and that's
they're not.
Yeah,
they try to pass the ball. It's not that they're doing too much. Although Huggins made the point that they do dribble way too much, because he did make a great point on that. I will say, our team does a lot of dribbling side to side, and not enough driving to the basket when they dribble the basketball, and that's one thing that Hug said that I thought was really smart. He said, you only dribble when you're trying to drive to the basket. You're not supposed to dribble, out there just dribbling around,
just to be dribbling
with it. Yeah, if you're dribbling, you better be doing something with it. If not, pass the basketball. And, once West Virginia gets that mentality and starts to be able to run fluid offense like that, I think that's when you're really going to start them be able to play really good offense, and which I think is going to turn into better defense, which turns into better offense, if that makes any sense.
And going back to the, them not being friendly teammates, like I said, I feel like that we kind of like have the opposite issue right now. I don't think that we have a bunch of individuals out there playing for themselves. I feel like we just got a whole team out there, but nobody's at that point where they can just take the game over yet. I mean, you look at Taz and he's got takeover potential, but look at the rest of our team, like who else is going to take a game over out there that you know of? Sean McNeil has a potential
defensively
to drop 30 points.
Defensively Gabe, but offensively no one else really.
Yeah,
unless you start to see Jalen Bridges or Isaiah Cottrell start to get a little bit of their game, which I think you will.
Yeah, I think those are the two people to watch going forward, just to see and like how they're progressing. If we start seeing their numbers bump up, and then I would love to see one of them just take over a game where they just put up 20 plus and lead scorers and just have a game. And I think that would be, I'd be ecstatic as a WVU fan seeing that.
Oh yeah, I'd like to see anybody on this team flourish. I think there's not an ego on this team that I've noticed yet. I don't really think that anyone has one.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's something I love out of a team. I think unselfish ball is my favorite type of basketball. I love when you see a good team start to flourish when they do have good teamwork. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
But I guess if you really want to look at it, West Virginia, I don't really know what you could say could be the takeaway from that game.
We need to be better at
I was
rebounding.
gonna ask you what
It's got
their
to be
identity
rebounding.
would be right now, but I'm struggling with what my answer would be to that question, because I don't think West Virginia has an identity to this point.
Yeah, no, I think our identity right now is Gabe Osaboyan getting everybody excited enough to play. And
Our identity is Gabe. That's it.
yeah, it's pretty much Gabe
Gabe
Osaboyan right
Osaboyan.
now. It's up to that man to keep everybody into every game right now until people really get comfortable playing ball.
Yeah. Well, all right. So we're going to get into this Pitt game. We're not really going to talk about a lot about this Pitt game. Pitt really isn't. We talk about West Virginia struggling to this point. Pitt is really, really struggling out of the gate. First of all, to make things bad, they lost starting guard, a senior guard. I don't know if it's Nike or Nike Sabande, but they lost him to an ACL injury. He is out for the season, so that they will be without him. Coming out just a week ago, they also lost another guard in Horton, and they lost him to assault on a police officer. So they will also be without him. So two big players out of their lineup. They also opened up the season losing to the Citadel 78-63.
Yeah, 15 points. I mean, I didn't watch it. I don't know if it was, a pull away at the end or if it was, pretty distant the whole game, but still 15-point loss to Citadel was not the way you want to start your season at Pitt.
Yeah, and I don't want to jinx anything, because these types of games are never really predictable, if you ask me.
It's a rivalry game, man.
Right. I don't want to point out any games. Everybody can think back to whatever.
But it is a sellout game.
You can think of whatever sport you want to think of, and whatever date in 2007 that you want to think of, if you want to, and reference that for any credibility to that. So I'm not going to jinx anything, but West Virginia should be able to handle these guys tomorrow night pretty fairly. If you want to, we'll just go over who we think the winner will be, and then we'll get out of here, because I guess for these basketball pods, there's not really a lot to talk about, especially earlier in the season. You know what I mean? We'll start to get a little bit longer episodes once we get more solidified information about these teams moving forward in the season, because right now it's a little hard to tell with how young everybody is and how new everybody is to the roster. And then it's just hard for us to schedule these things, to be quite honest with you guys. So we're just going to give you these short episodes for the next little bit, and let us know how y'all like those too. Okay.
Yeah. Real quick though, I just wanted to go look at Pitt's game. They had two dudes score over 20. I mean, that's 40. They scored 47 of their 63 points.
Okay.
I know, but they scored 47 of their 63 points against the Citadel. And, one of these guys is a big man, and one of them's a guard, it seems. So, I mean, it was still going to be a test for our guys.
Yeah, they've got playmakers. That's not what I mean. They did only win 10 basketball games last season, so that's to be taken with a grain of rice. But the players that I've watched play, they're not an untalented basketball team in my mind. They actually play pretty good basketball at times. I don't watch them enough to know what their problem is, to be honest with you.
Yeah. I think I'm just looking at it more as like this is still going to give us a couple good guys for matchups like Isaiah Cottrell to really work up against somebody that seems to be doing pretty well. 27 points, 10 rebounds right there, and then 20 points, 4 rebounds on the other guy. They got some people that's really going to help our players get better. So it is going to be a good showing out if we can do, if we can still come out and show up. Individually, if Isaiah Cottrell can have a good game against this Odukale, I don't know how to pronounce him. Sorry if I butcher it.
Yeah, there's a lot of names on there that I do apologize, but I'll have a very tough time pronouncing them, and I don't want to butcher them. So
yeah, but I think that's Odukale is the guard. So was the other one Hugley? Yeah. So I mean, I think that's just what I'm looking at. Is even if it is kind of a slower game and we are handling it, those are still matchups to look at to see personal growth amongst the players. Is Isaiah Cottrell able to handle his own against a 27-point, 10 rebound, guy so far? Yeah. A guy's shown that he can play. So can Isaiah Cottrell body him up and get right there with him as well if that's who he's up against?
Yeah, I do think it'll be a good test for our guys. Especially being a home game. Fairly confident that this will be a packed house at the Coliseum. I think that WVU will show up and be loud for this one. So I don't think that's going to be any types of problems. So hopefully, with all those things in WVU's favor, it should be it should equal a win. I'm going to go ahead and pick the Mountaineers. Not really sure what a score will be because I don't have a good identity of where they'll, what kind of range that these two teams score yet. So I'm just going to
we
say
scored 60 against Oakland and they scored 63 against Citadel. So
yeah, well, I'm just going to be safe and just say I picked them to win by 10 points. I'm not going to name a score.
Gotcha. I'm going to name a score just because, I'm feeling confident. I'm going to say like a 70 to like a 58. WVU.
I like it. 12-point win.
Yeah. And I think that we barely scraped 70.
Yeah, probably. Unless we start to shoot the ball at a way higher clip than what we have in the first game. So
yeah, Sean McNeil comes out with a hot hand, hits, 30 points.
Capable of it, man. He is.
Every game he is.
Capable of it. But yeah, I guess what's going to wrap up this episode of the Country Roads Webcast. Hoops. This is the second episode of the Country Roads Webcast Hoops now.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty exciting. All right, but that game is going to be on ESPNU tomorrow night at 8:30. It is going to be at the WVU Coliseum. And I guess we'll be coming back at you on Saturday with the recap of that game and then previewing who was West Virginia got after that. I haven't really thought about much after Pitt, to be quite honest with you. Uninformed on the Country Roads Webcast tonight. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, unprepared.
Elon. Well, okay.
Oh, yeah, we got the law school.
For those of you, Bradley probably knows who Elon is, but a lot of you may not. Elon is actually a close college of some family members of mine down in North Carolina. So that'll be a fun game for me to watch. So we'll be coming at you Saturday, and then that game will be, I believe, next Tuesday, also at the Coliseum. But Bradley, if you got anything else to add, you can go ahead.
Nah, man, I just hope we get some more boards.
No, yeah. Rebound, yep. We'll name the next web. Goodness, I can't talk. We'll name the next episode.
Yeah. It's been one of those weeks, guys. It's been one of those weeks.
It has definitely been one of those weeks. Just bear with us. But I guess that's going to do us. But as always, let's go Mountaineers.
If you really want to know, then come on, let's go. Take a stroll down those